A week has passed since an explosion rocked the Cascade district. The Farscape fleet has placed the area under lockdown, refusing to share details about their investigation. The public demands answers, while tensions rise between the fleet and the Hunters Association, who have been barred from investigating. The explosion site is completely destroyed, with rain forecasted for tomorrow evening that will wash away evidence. Investigators are racing against time to gather clues before all traces disappear. A dispatch request to investigate the explosion has been denied. The case bears similarities to a previous incident. Skyhaven, a floating artificial island requiring substantial energy, is under the control of the Farspace fleet, whose new colonel has restricted Hunter access due to concerns about confidential information. Investigators continue searching the explosion site for evidence, working under pressure as the colonel's starship is scheduled to return soon. Their work is interrupted when a suspect unexpectedly appears at fleet headquarters, forcing them to abandon the site. The colonel prepares to land in Skyhaven, discussing a recent incident in deep space where someone attempted to sabotage their ship. Despite facing resistance from the old guard who hoped for his failure, the colonel remains determined to survive and identify the traitor. A suspect has been storing weapons and placing explosives in residential areas, apparently to provoke dissatisfaction with the fleet and the new colonel. The suspect claims the fleet forced him to act, but others believe he's been driven mad by extended time in deep space. Joseph, a pilot who served on a deep space mission, is revealed as the Cascade district bomber. He claims the fleet killed his family, but the colonel presents evidence suggesting Joseph's memories were affected by cosmic radiation and cybazine addiction, leading him to accidentally kill his own family. As rain begins to fall, a mysterious individual is apprehended. The colonel decides to personally investigate this person who has apparently deceived the entire fleet with a fake identity. During interrogation, the suspect recognizes the colonel as someone named Caleb, though the colonel initially denies this. The room is under surveillance, limiting what can be said. The suspect mentions a childhood connection to someone who died in an explosion, similar to the one in Cascade District. After a tense interrogation about an Aether core, the colonel reveals himself to be Caleb, confirming the suspect's suspicions. Their emotional reunion suggests they share a deep history together, with Caleb apologizing for his long absence and inability to protect someone important to them both. Caleb, now a colonel in the Farspace fleet, invites the suspect to stay at his place rather than the officer barracks. He declares the suspect his new adjutant to prevent anyone from questioning their identity, using his authority to protect them from scrutiny. Caleb brings the suspect to his rarely used residence, suggesting they extend their stay in Skyhaven for a few more weeks. He grants them access to the home and they choose a bedroom, though Caleb later reveals it's actually his room. Despite their time apart, their playful interactions hint at a close relationship from the past. The conversation begins with reminiscing about childhood fears, particularly astrophobia. One character teases the other about being afraid of thunder as a child, remembering how they would hide when storms came. There's a sense of shared history between them, with hints of a close relationship. The pair discusses an investigation. One suggests they have a telepathic connection, while the other insists the fleet will handle whatever situation they're concerned about. There's tension as one tries to convince the other to relax in Skyhaven instead of investigating, promising to always have their back. The scene shifts to arrangements about breakfast and fleet business. Shortly after, the setting changes to a medical facility where someone is trying to visit a patient named Mia, who is recently recovered from critical condition. A staff member explains that visits require authorization from Dr. Jones. A character is questioned about being at the medical center during their ordered leave. It's revealed that Mia was exposed to a metaflux explosion and is physically recovering but emotionally traumatized. Despite restrictions, arrangements are made for a possible visit with her. The scene moves to Mia's room, where she's shown drinking milk and recovering from pain. A young girl is introduced to a visitor described as a skilled hunter who has saved many children. Mia asks about someone named Kevi, wondering if he's dead, showing distress. The conversation turns to investigation progress. Mia had been clinging to a plushie from the explosion site. Someone named Kevi has disappeared, and there's a warning that getting involved will mean confronting others who are also searching for him, bringing the protagonist closer to danger. The atmosphere in Skyhaven is discussed as being different from before. The fleet, which previously operated modestly on exploration missions in Deepspace tunnel, has now deployed forces on the ground in an unprecedented way, raising questions about what's really happening. A frightened character worries they've become a monster and doesn't want to be seen. Later, it's revealed that Kevi and Mia were playing hide-and-seek during the explosion. Kevi survived because of something his parents left him, and he's been hiding because his parents warned him not to trust certain people. A character explains witnessing something similar years ago involving a friend. When wanderers strike, energy crystals grow in afflicted areas, corroding human bodies and creating shells. Victims lose sanity and become violent. Plans are made to transfer Kevi to Oxo Hospital for treatment. Tension rises in Skyhaven due to the Cascade District explosion and Deepspace tunnel disturbances causing more wanderer appearances. A confrontation with a wanderer occurs, followed by a violent encounter with someone called Viper, who seems interested in an Aether core. A menacing figure mentions there are less than 72 hours before final plea-up, and threatens someone who touched a woman they're protecting. The scene shifts to rain, with characters reuniting after one was tracking someone who got away. They return home together. Back home, one character helps dry the other's wet hair, reminiscing about how long it's been since they lived together. They discuss keeping certain information private, even from their colleagues. The caretaker brings a hairdryer, showing a moment of domestic intimacy. The fleet is mentioned as responsible for investigating incidents involving their personnel. One character reassures the other that someone will be found. The scene shifts to a home that's been empty too long, now filled with new purchases, including a robot that can bring snacks. One character advises the other to stay home due to a cold and mentions Skyhaven will be under lockdown that night. Energy fluctuations in the Deepspace tunnel have agitated wanderers, prompting a cleanup operation. Despite protests about important matters elsewhere, safety is emphasized as the priority. Tension rises as one questions why the other needs a gun for supposedly friendly gathering. References to an Aether core in someone's body suggest they're not a normal hunter. The explosion incident is described as complicated, with warnings about being trapped forever with one wrong move. Late at night, one character catches the other looking for something, about to leave. Concern is expressed about a persistent cough and cold symptoms from the previous day's rain. The scene ends with a poignant question about selfishness in keeping someone close, suggesting deeper emotional complexities. A tense conversation reveals someone promising to end a nightmare situation. They notice blood on someone's sleeve and warn them to hide it before going inside, indicating some dangerous mission has just concluded. A hospital is having trouble reaching a patient's guardians. Someone promises to make arrangements by the following night. The patient has awakened early in the morning and seems eager to leave. During a night operation, someone was found in a garden near a blockade holding what appeared to be an Aether core fragment. The fleet is currently holding the shard, and the person found is reportedly okay. Someone has recovered from a fever. Another person had heard them howling out in their sleep and came to check on them. They offer to take them somewhere as compensation for not being able to do so the previous day. News breaks that someone named Mia has passed away. This is followed by questions about an explosion incident, suggesting possible negligence by the fleet and inquiries about new protocols with a lockdown approaching. A child mentions moving to a new place soon and being found by the fleet. They express that they'll miss their sister, but will be okay in their new home. They accept a gift reluctantly, only because of who gave it to them. Someone apologizes for fleet business getting in the way. They discuss a child named Kevi, who may be putting up a front rather than truly accepting the loss of his family and sister. A situation develops with reporters causing a scene outside. A colonel is informed and leaves to investigate, promising to return shortly. The conversation shifts to Aether cores, valuable objects that only select individuals can handle without being devoured by their power. Someone introduces themselves as Viper, a friend of Caleb's, offering to reveal what the fleet and Caleb are really planning. Viper makes cryptic statements about a child being saved from a normal fate, suggesting it's better to serve powerful people than live an ordinary life. They invite someone to see the truth for themselves at a specific location the next day. A disturbing scene unfolds with a child describing how a professor taught them to break a bird's wings so it can't fly, but will believe it still can. The child mentions their dead sister with unusual emotional detachment, suggesting some form of psychological manipulation. A system error occurs with mentions of a primary personality attacking a control program. Someone fights against forgetting, suggesting mind control or memory manipulation. The scene resets with the child repeating earlier statements as if nothing happened. A professor figure appears, warning someone about restraining a fragmented consciousness that doesn't belong to them. They discuss a plan involving Mia, who showed no signs of transformation, implying she was expendable. The professor urges not getting emotionally attached to normal people. The scene shifts to a conversation about stars and supernovas. A child discusses their science project, mentioning a supergiant star 2,300 light-years away that their generation might witness exploding. They recall wisdom from someone named Gran about powerful stars and fragile humans. Two people observe cosmic wonders in Skyhaven, including a supernova. They reminisce about childhood dreams of exploring the universe, despite being confined by walls and barbed wire in their past. They discuss figuring out the world, one step at a time. A cleanup operation is underway at a test site. People hide from patrols while discussing monsters becoming more aggressive with high contamination levels. These specimens are described as being on the brink of transformation with no salvage value. Someone questions if they're still alive. They describe being saved from death for an experiment with the promise of living again. They mention a professor who gave them a second chance at life, referring to him as their father. A threatening encounter occurs with someone attempting to consume another person for their strength. The aggressor is identified as a missing specimen that needs to be stopped. Someone warns about people always wanting power in this world. They scold another for trespassing in restricted zones alone at night, putting themselves in danger. An emotional conversation reveals someone's fear of experiencing loneliness again. They explain that the explosion was an opportunity for the fleet to intervene and plan to take someone to a new location for protection until everything is resolved. A tense conversation unfolds between two individuals, with one checking on the other's vital signs. There's an underlying sense of concern, mixed with frustration, as one person seems to have figured something out about the other, creating an atmosphere of vulnerability. A medical emergency occurs with someone in pain. A nurse is called, but suspicion arises when they head toward the armory instead of the pharmacy. The nurse claims to be taking stabilizers, suggesting ulterior motives beyond medical care. Accusations about mind control devices and chips emerge, suggesting someone believes they're being manipulated. References to memory input indicate advanced technology is involved. The conversation shifts to an upcoming fleet patrol through the Deepspace tunnel and a celebratory banquet. The tension escalates as someone attempts to hide but is discovered. There's a promise to take them home, revealing a power dynamic where one person has control over the other's movements. A wound requires attention, showing physical conflict has occurred. Caleb shares a childhood memory about an injured cat they tried to keep from escaping, drawing a parallel to the current situation. He suggests using a bell to track the other person, highlighting his controlling nature and desire to keep them close. The controlled person expresses frustration with Caleb's protection. Caleb mentions needing just 3 more days to tie up loose ends before everything will be over. News reports confirm a lockdown will be lifted after 3 days, connecting to larger events. The relationship between the characters deepens as Caleb reminisces about how well they once knew each other. The conversation reveals significant changes in Caleb's personality, with accusations about mind-controlled chips suggesting he's become someone unrecognizable to his companion. Caleb's obsessive protection becomes more apparent as he offers to rebuild their old house or create an elaborate maze where no one can find them. His promises to protect forever take on a sinister tone, showing his possessive nature. A flashback reveals Caleb's long-standing protective nature, offering comfort and guidance. The scene shifts to the present, where Caleb is leaving, but reminds his companion to take care of themselves, showing a complex mix of control and genuine concern. A new character enters, mentioning someone was at Skyhaven for a wedding. The brief conversation is interrupted by a work call, introducing additional connections to the outside world. A group discusses their operations involving recycled flux nexuses and gathering information on Anikinus. Their work at Skyhaven is nearly complete, and they debate their next destination. The group dynamic suggests they're a team with varying personalities. The conversation shifts to events from 14 years ago involving Josephine's team defecting and the Gaia Research Center's destruction during the Chrono Rift catastrophe. They discuss finding a child who disappeared, suggesting this person has special powers that haven't activated yet. Someone expresses they've been waiting for years, creating anticipation for upcoming events. Plans involving the Fountain of Aether and Ever's revolutionary vision are mentioned, along with tracking down the missing child before someone becomes completely useless.